What Larry did the entire time is not just pick us up. He kicked the crap out of those guys and kept us alive to that point. And if you don't at least try to complete your mission, then anything lost is in vain. So that's what, to me, it's for a commander, and he was the on-scene commander that night. You really got to handle both the mission and getting the people out of there. So it got to the point where I said, well, we're running out of ammunition, we're running out of rockets, I got no offensive power, so we got to do something else. Obviously, we're not going to prevail in this field of battle, so let's live to fight again at a different time. And so that's the route he took. So I can't win here, but we can get him out of here. I don't know how yet, but I'll figure it out. And I've probably got 10 or 15 seconds to create a way to do that. He really did it literally on the fly.
Yeah. I know this past week has been about Captain Taylor, but you have had a chance to speak at the Hall of Heroes, to speak to Chattanooga today, to see your friend. You started this back years ago, and you saw this through here. What has all this been like for you personally to not only see it, but also be such a big part of it?
Well, it's been tremendous. Because Mike Holden and I, back there working with the Army team, they normally have 60 days to put a Medal of Honor thing together. They had less than 30. And they're very small, and they're very elite, and they're very experienced. They do a great job, but they needed reinforcements. And that's where Mike and I provided. We're both aficionados of military history, particularly Larry Taylor history. So they use us basically as technical writers and consultants for that. So it's been crazy. It was worse than the whole 7 years, really, in about a 2-month period. But it's for Larry Taylor. Yeah, so you met deadlines. Mike and I were businessmen, but we haven't had to meet deadlines and budgets in a long time. So it's a labor of love. You know, it's a little bit of payback. And by you guys and other people putting the word out here in the future, it's pay forward. And Larry asked nothing. There's no self-aggrandizement in his soul. But we can all tell the story, and you and I have been telling it for a few years. Finally, we got fruition, the payoff. Doesn't always happen, but it did for Larry Taylor.
You told me several years ago that this Taylor not being awarded the way you thought he should have was just one thing, the one thing in your career that you always wanted to have back, to be done differently, to another shot at that. Now that you're, here today and the ceremony has passed, how does that feel for you?
Oh, it feels terrific because in the Army, the war goes on. They never talk to us, and maybe they've never felt the need to. I certainly would have. But the key players to push it forward is commanding officer. He was killed in midair just 2 weeks later. A few months later, General Keith Ware was shot down and killed. So you got to have those people pushing an award higher and higher. I don't know what transpired in the background, but the reason, like General Bell said, one reason they couldn't talk to us, we were 40 miles away. The very next morning after this thing, after we reloaded magazines, we were on the chopper back to the same battle area to sweep it with the D troops, what they call the Aero Rifle Platoon. 30 guys, and they needed scouts. Well, we were scouts, and this time we were going back with real firepower. So we did that. Well, meanwhile, Larry's already on another mission. We went down the next day to try to find him and thank he and J.O. Ratliff, his co-pilot. He was already gone. We couldn't see him. 2 days later, we're on our next mission. I left a month later, but I ran three or four more missions in that time. And really, I felt pretty comfortable. If I made it through that mission, I was likely to get to go home.
Yeah. You told me back then that was the day that you realized you weren't invincible.
That's the day I admitted I wasn't. You're right. And you, being a Marine, you're not, and you're part of a team. I always thought the stupidest recruiting campaign I ever heard was in the Army said an army of one. No such thing, not since the Romans, the Corinthians, and the Greeks. It's a team always. It might only be two, but it's not one guy, except for Rambo.
My last question is, when you drove by us today, you said, he let me right on the inside this time. Yeah. Were you sitting on that one? Did you have that one stored up?
That
joke.
That quip? Yeah. No, one of the guys actually triggered me on it. I started getting it. He said, no, sit on the door like you did.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah. When you're, honestly, you've been right there through this whole process the last, couple of weeks. You're riding through Larry Taylor's hometown, in his parade, his welcome home parade. What was that like to kind of be there with he and Tony and kind of enjoying that moment?
Oh, unbelievable. And like for Larry and myself and Chattanooga, that was the parade we never got back then. I don't harbor any hurt about that. It's just a very controversial political war. And that's probably why we had to get out of there, because you took the war away from the generals, from the admirals. And once it becomes political, your objectives change and your means of getting there change, and how much resource you're willing to expend to do that changes. And so it's life. We survived it, and it's up to us to carry on, and to carry on the word of Larry Taylor. Don't worry about it. Don't cry over it. You got a new chance, a new rebirth through Larry Taylor.
You're a good one, Dave Hill. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks.
Appreciate you, man. Yeah, good seeing you again, as
you.
always.